Hey guys, it's Steve. Don't forget to subscribe for fresh new content and click on the link in the video description for free courses and thousands of articles in photography. So today let's talk about wide-angle lens converters and how they work. So these are much cheaper than buying the lens itself. And if you're a hobby photographer or just want to play around with different styles, they're an inexpensive way to get your feet wet. Lens converters actually attach to your lens to extend the functionality of the lens. The difference between a lens converter and a lens adapter is that while a converter increases your capabilities with your current lens, an adapter allows you to use a lens on your camera that has a different mount than your body. For example, you can use a Canon lens on a Nikon body or vice versa. The four main types of lens converters are macro, telephoto, fisheye, and wide angle. A macro converter is designed to allow you to get closer to your subject through additional magnification. You'll buy your converter based on how much you want to increase your magnification, such as 2x, which will double your magnification. Another popular converter is a telephoto converter, which increases the effective focal length of your lens. These are useful for photographers interested in exploring nature photography. Just like a macro converter, these converters are described in a 2x, 3x, 4x, and so on. This means that if you have a 6x zoom lens on your point-and-shoot camera, a 2x will make it a 12x zoom. Another set of common converters are the wide-angle and fisheye converters. Unlike a macro and telephoto converter, these converters are designed to get you farther away from the subject. This makes them perfect for landscape or real estate photography. So if you have a 50mm lens on your camera, a 0.5x wide-angle converter will give you the same capabilities as a 24mm lens. So now that we know what lens converters can do and that they are cheaper than lenses, you might be wondering why you wouldn't rely on a lens converter in all circumstances. There are reasons not to use a lens converter in all cases. But first let's look at the upside. So the primary reason why anyone buys and uses a lens converter is that they are the cheapest solution to a problem. That problem is often wanting to shoot subject matter which would be enhanced by being farther away or closer to the camera. The downside of lens converters ranges by the type of converter you're using. For wide-angle lens converters, this can include making your camera bulkier, as the converter won't retract back into the body of the point-and-shoot camera. The primary issue many photographers have with lens converters, including wide-angle converters, is their negative impact on image quality. Nearly all wide-angle converters will cause vignetting, soft corners, chromatic aberrations, loss of sharpness, and heavy barrel distortion. When the corners of your photos are darker than the center, you've got vignetting. Basically, the amount of light hitting the sensor on the outside edges is a little less than what is coming through from the center of the lens. Soft corners refer to the result of less definition in the extremities of your image. The bright side with regards to your photos having soft corners when shooting with a wide-angle converter is that all lens tends to cause soft corners to one degree or another, so it's not a big problem. The key will be if the lack of definition you get when shooting with wide-angle converters bothers you or not. If you notice color fringing or purple fringing in your photos, you're looking at chromatic aberrations. These aberrations usually occur when your lens is unable to bring all the different wavelengths of color to the same focal plane. Chromatic aberrations are caused by lens dispersion, which results in an image looking blurred or with oddly colored edges. This is especially true in high contrast images. Loss of sharpness is the chief complaint people have about wide-angle converters. The loss of sharpness is often due to the converter limiting the amount of light coming into the camera, resulting in the need for longer shutter speeds. Barrel distortion is a type of optical distortion that causes straight lines in your image to curve inward as if you're looking at the bottom of a bowl or barrel. This type of distortion happens when your image sensor is narrower than your field of focus, which often occurs when using a wide-angle converter. To compensate for the difference, the camera tries to squeeze everything in to fit, resulting in distortion. So in reality, all of these downsides to a wide-angle converter can be a lot of fun to play with, assuming you want to be a bit more artistic with your photography. However, they can be difficult to control for, so you might be stuck with whatever your results are, unless you're very adept with Lightroom or Photoshop. So what are the advantages of wide-angle shooting? The main advantage of a wide-angle converter is that they by definition have a wider field of vision than the human eye. Because of this, they are most often used when you want to capture as much of a scene as possible, such as when you're shooting landscapes, interior architecture, or cityscapes. The key thing to remember when you decide to start shooting with a wide-angle lens or use a wide-angle lens converter is that they will distort the image and enhance perspective. The object closest to the lens appears significantly larger than objects far away, even if they look about the same size with your naked eye. You'll want to take advantage of this particular type of distortion caused by wide-angle shooting. However, doing so can be intimidating because it often means getting within inches of your subject matter to force the viewer to focus on that object while still taking in everything else captured in the image. Another reason to get super close to your subject is that it's easier to have objects in the midground and background as well. This creates more depth and perspective. Wide-angle shooting is also very popular for interior or real estate photography. This isn't because there is a desire to be artistic with the type of distortion a wide-angle lens offers, but because it allows you to capture more of the room when your back is against the wall, literally. So let's now take a look at choosing the right wide-angle lens converter for your needs. When buying lenses, you're probably used to considering the type of mount the camera has. For example, an EF or EFS mount for Canon DSLR cameras. However, a converter fits on the front of your existing lens and uses a completely different measure. Take a look at the front of the lens that you want to use with your converter. You will see that there are threads that you can screw something onto. If you've ever used a filter with your lens, this is the same connection point. Sizes come in millimeters, for example 55 millimeters or 62. To find out your lens size, look for the diameter symbol on your lens. What if the converter you find doesn't fit the lens you want to use? You can get step-down or step-up rings to make the conversion. These rings are also helpful if you want to use your converter with a couple of different lenses that do not have the same size threads. Let's talk about wide-angle plus macro. Some wide-angle converters do double duty. They convert your lens to both wide-angle as well as macro. These converters usually have two pieces. Use them together to have a wide-angle converter, or use the macro converter separately to magnify your subjects. This type of converter makes an already inexpensive substitution even more cost-effective. Let's now look at some wide-angle lens converters out on the market today and see what's a good deal. First, we have the Altura Photo Professional 0.43x with macro. This converter offers considerable bang for your buck. As a cool bonus, it also comes with a removable macro portion. With a 0.43x conversion rate, a 50mm lens effectively becomes 21.5mm. Reviewers report that vignetting and optical blur when used with a 50mm lens is not too bad. On an 18 to 55mm kit lens, reviewers mention that it works best when used above 24mm. Anything lower than that has noticeable vignetting and blur. The optics are covered with a special coating to help cut down on distortion and glare. The lens also keeps the ability to use autofocus, zoom, and auto exposure. Thread sizes include 52, 55, and 58mm. Next is the newer 0.43x with macro. This converter is similar to the Altura one that we just mentioned. It is slightly less expensive but also offers the detachable macro lens. The conversion rate is the same, 0.43x, so you can expect a similar focal length conversion. The lens uses HD optical glass, cutting down on lens flare and glare. Reviewers expressed surprise with the high image quality, considering how inexpensive the converter is. This converter also comes in 52, 55, and 58mm thread sizes. Let's next look at the Kenko SGW 0.5x. Again, an inexpensive converter, this fits on the smaller 37mm thread size, which is great for compact cameras or camcorders. With 0.5x magnification, it essentially doubles your field of view. Reviewers report that you can see significant vignetting when zooming all the way out, but that tightening up a little takes care of this. If you're willing to spend a little bit more money, the Raynox HD Pro 0.66x is a good choice. This one retails for over $100. But in return it cuts down on distortion significantly, even when used with zoom. Remember, it's still much cheaper than buying a dedicated wide-angle lens. So if you're looking for something you could play around with, but will give you better results than the cheapest option, this lens is a great choice. At 0.66x, it nearly doubles the field of vision. It comes in a wide range of thread sizes including 37, 43, 46, 49, 52, 55, and 58mm. Next we have the Raynox DCR 0.7x. This is a little bit more middle of the road, and again it's under $100. This converter offers about 37% more viewing area. It effectively makes a 50mm lens into a 35mm. High index coated glass with a steel barrel offers a sturdy construction. Reviewers report no noticeable distortion as well as the image stays sharp even when zoomed. The only size is 52mm, but includes adapter rings for 37, 43, and 46mm. Alright, next we have the Zycos 0.18x Super Fisheye lens. If you want to play with some cool fisheye effects without dropping the cash on an expensive fisheye lens, this will widen up your photos considerably. Considering that at this magnification, 50mm becomes 9mm. The lens takes circular photos, so you can use it to achieve some interesting and artistic effects. The lens uses high-quality coated optical glass. A steel barrel construction makes sure that it's sturdy. Next we have the Helder HD.45X. This lens will open up your field of view considerably without adding too much of a fisheye effect to your photo. The 0.45x magnification will open up a 55mm to 22.5. The lens is reasonably priced and described as having high definition quality. Next we have the Opteka 0.45x High Definition 2. This converter is a little bit cheaper than the last one we mentioned. Reviewers mentioned that it doesn't work well at focal lengths above 180mm. The edges begin to show streaks and start to blur. It works well with any focal length shorter than that, however. If you want to learn more about this topic and read the full article, click on the link in the description or use the address shown in your browser. You can also find all our freebies and thousands of photography articles there. We hope this was helpful to you. Thanks for watching.